So here's these two pathways to anxiety, and each of the pathways can lead the amygdala to create anxiety, but each pathway is constructed of circuitry, and certain things can be changed in that. And parts of the pathway, that there are parts that are beyond our control. You could say they're unconscious and they're happening at a speed that is too fast for us to stop, but there are also parts that are under our control. So one thing you've learned is that these two pathways operate on different timetables, that the amygdala pathway is much faster, and that the amygdala pathway can cause a reaction before you have even seen what's going on, right? The cortex, on the other hand, we have learned that the cortex has more detailed information than the amygdala gets. The cortex is designed to give us lots of detailed information and to even be able to read things like right now you're reading this screen, for example. The amygdala isn't a reader. You know, maybe the amygdala could read something like the word stop on a stop sign. Maybe it knows what that means, but it's not a reader. The cortex has to read things, right? So these different pathways operate on different timetables with different level of detail that they have access to. The amygdala gets kind of a quick and dirty picture, but not details. And the cortex, it has few ways down to the amygdala to influence the amygdala, but the amygdala has many connections up into the cortex and can have a lot of influence over our cortex. So that means your cortex has fewer ways to influence your amygdala has more ways to influence your cortex. And these two different pathways, one pathway that involves just the amygdala can create anxiety, but also there's another pathway that involves the cortex, where the cortex could create anxiety. And also the cortex can provide kind of corrective information that can cause the amygdala to stop producing anxiety once it's started. But these two pathways are so important to understand. They are real game changers. And if you can understand that there's two different pathways to anxiety, and that the underlying principle that we have is that there's a bottom-up triggering of emotion that comes directly from sensory experiences, like having a hand on your shoulder that someone reached out and grabbed you, that sensory information triggers anxiety. But it could be, and we'll talk about how this happens, sometimes what you're seeing doesn't lead to you to feel anxious, but your cortex then causes you to feel anxious. And we'll explain that. But each of these two pathways, the top-down emotion generation, where things going on in your cortex, in other words, scary thoughts usually, are activating the amygdala. That's one pathway, the top-down pathway. But there's also this bottom-up, which goes directly from seeing something come into your lane of your traffic, and that you automatically react to, or hearing a sound that sounds frightening, just in and of itself, without even knowing, just like any loud sound will often cause a startle, even if it's a positive thing, like someone shouting your name in excitement, or a firecracker exploding and being very beautiful. All right, so I'm going to give you a little story here that can kind of put into context how this all happens in one situation. We're going to talk about my little daughter, Melinda, who's now 27, not so little, but a good explanation is when Melinda was little and she needed to go in the basement. For example, she would often want to go down in the basement to get the tennis racket, tennis balls. She's ready to get out toys that she wants to play with in the summer. And so she's going down there to get them. But when she goes down into the basement, there is something that she sees, signals that come into her eyeballs. And what part of the brain is going to see that first? It's going to be the amygdala that's going to see what she sees first as she goes down in the basement. And what the amygdala is going to see is not going to be a clear picture. So if this thing that she's seeing is a dark shape that's kind of hanging in the air, then what the amygdala might see is what you see kind of on the left there. Kind of looks like a foreboding shape there. Kind of looks like a Death Eater from Harry Potter or something. It's not a friendly kind of shape there. And so when the amygdala gets that quick and dirty picture, not a lot of detail, that is something that might cause her heart to start pounding, release some adrenaline. She might feel like running back up the stairs when her amygdala reacts to that image. But right in the same second, just a fraction of a second later, she is going to see with her cortex, because the information is going to get from her eyeball all the way back to her occipital lobe, and she will see what that object is. Now, I want to say this is not like the light turned on and she saw it. It's that it takes a while for us to see something and the amygdala sees first. I want to be clear about that. Now, when she sees that it's a suit coat there hanging there, then she's not going to feel so afraid. And she might take a deep breath. She might feel a sense of relief. But I want to say the adrenaline doesn't leave her body. Her heart doesn't immediately start pounding. She still feels that sense of arousal that the amygdala has created, because we can't take it away immediately just because we've got new information. Things have happened. Your muscles have gotten tense. You've jumped back a step. Things have happened. So this is how the experience is. Now, Melinda might continue down the steps into that experience of the basement, or she might come back upstairs and say, Mom, I don't want to go down the basement. Why don't you want to go down? I don't know. It just scares me. And so if I say, what scared you? She might say, I'm not sure. She might say it was that, but it's not that, it's something else, because I'm still scared. Can you go down there with me? Or can you go get the ball? You see how it works? That the experience might, even in the absence of any information that there's a danger, the experience of feeling fear can cause you to feel like, maybe I should trust that feeling. This is a scary place. So I want you to understand that it's not a rational process that we're experiencing. It's an emotional process.